Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. I hope everyone's doing well. What I'm going to do in today's video is just finish off my Darkthrone collection. So a couple of videos ago you'll see that I ranked the 90s Darkthrone albums. So what I'm going to do today is just talk about the rest of the Darkthrone albums in my collection. As I mentioned, these are not going to be ranked because I don't own all of the post-2000 Darkthrone albums. So the 90s ones are sort of considered the classic era in a sense, so that's why I ranked those together. I have all of those, but with these other ones I have some gaps in the collection, so I'm just going to talk about them individually. And with the ones I'm missing, maybe you can recommend the ones which you think are good. So I have 4 CDs to talk about today to round off what I own, and as I said, they're not going to be ranked. So the first one I'm going to talk about is actually a compilation, so it's not performed by the band, but in the chronology, you know, Ravishing Grimness came out in '99, and then they released this one for their 10-year anniversary, so I'll talk about that now. This is Holy Darkthrone, or Darkthrone, Holy Darkthrone, and as the title says here, it's 8 Norwegian bands paying tribute, so 8 bands covering Darkthrone songs. So just show you the booklet. It's quite simple, really. Yeah, you see here, you've got the disc, which is that Tarkaferd image. Pretty cool negative black and white photo of Zephyrus, I think. And then just some liner notes by, I think, were they written by Satir or Moonfog Records? I don't know, but very good compilation anyway. So famous Norwegian bands covering the songs, and I really enjoy this one. Some interesting interpretation of the band as a tribute to them for the legacy they've left. So basically you've got the bands performing Satyricon, Enslaved, Thorns, Emperor, Dirtheimsgard, Gehenna, Gorgoroth, and Immortal. So what I'll say is I pretty much enjoy the whole album. Like, there's not a lot that I dislike on this, except there are some songs I like more than others. So first of all, you've got Satyricon covering Catharian Life Code. That's a good cover. Basically, it's just like the original, except it's a bit faster and more precise with a better production. So, you know, sort of this like pumped up on steroids kind of version of that song from A Blaze in the Northern Sky, which is really good. Second track is Enslaved, covering Natasha and Eternal Sleep, and that's pretty much the same thing, like that song being covered in Enslaved style, which is very fast and precise once again, and with Grutler's trademark vocals. What I find interesting about that cover is it's that band covering some topics they wouldn't normally do, because, you know, they're interested in Viking history and Norse mythology. Here they're covering lyrics of a satanic nature, so it's interesting, and but they do a really good cover of it. I do like it. It's quite close to the original, but again, just better production. Track 3 is Thorns, covering the Pagan Winter. To be honest, Thorns isn't one of my favorite black metal bands. Like, I do find them interesting, except it's not the kind of band that I would listen to every day. Having said that, I did like their really early material, you know, like Eerie Descend, you know, on the Nordic metal tribute to Euronymous compilation. That's when they were sort of like a raw, atmospheric black metal band, but as they went on, they became progressive and electronic, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it doesn't interest me all the time. So this cover of the Pagan Winter, it's definitely original. You know, it's got some electronic twists in it and some industrial elements and everything, and some vocals with really weird effects, but certainly interesting, and you can still hear the original riffs well. I would just say that it's like interesting in an experimental way, but I wouldn't say I'm really into that cover, but still good. Then track 4, you've got Emperor covering Cromlech from Soulside Journey. Interesting because that was Darkthrone's death metal album, and then Emperor do it in that typical symphonic black metal way, so they include keyboards and everything, and they play it very precisely in that thorough Emperor kind of way. And you know, the breakdown riff at the end when it's the song's fading out, it's just so heavy and it's brilliant. So I really like Emperor's cover of Cromlech. Then you've got Dirtheimsgard covering Green Cave Float, which was the obscure track from Goat Lord. Again, that's kind of like an electronic version, and just like the Thorns cover, I would say it's interesting, but it's not like standing out as a really catchy cover. But again, it's just good because the worst thing is when bands do covers of bands and they sound exactly the same. You know, like a lot of black metal bands cover Bathory and it sounds exactly the same. So it's interesting when bands do something different. So the Dirtheimsgard one is interesting. Then you've got Gehenna covering Transylvanian Hunger. That's one of my favorites actually, because, you know, the album Transylvanian Hunger had very bad sound quality, very muffled and everything. This version is just sped up and super precise, and the vocals are just ravenous, like really harsh and razor sharp and fast. So the vocals are a big standout of that. So that Gehenna cover of Transylvanian Hunger is one of my favorites. Then you've got Gorgoroth covering Slotted Idet Fjörna, which is interesting because it's a terrible production and sound on that. So it's like they're going for the Transylvanian Hunger quality, but they make it even worse. And at first I didn't like that cover, but then I thought, you know, with that appropriate rawness and everything, it's sort of capturing the essence of Transylvanian Hunger. So that's one that's grown on me, that Gorgoroth cover. And at the end it's quite funny because you hear all the screeching and feedback, and it sounds like I don't know, pots and pans. No, not pot. Yeah, pots and pans banging and smashing to pieces or something. You know, just to add to the distortion and chaos. But that's pretty cool. Then the final track, it's a hidden track of Immortal covering To Walk the Infernal Fields. Of course, off Under a Funeral Moon, which is a great track to begin with. And then it's covered in a very typical Immortal way with Abbas vocals and everything. But it's also a very lo-fi production, and it just sounds really murky and eerie. So that's a great cover as well. So yeah, all in all, a very good compilation. Like I got this at the time it came out, and I was really curious and interested to hear it. All interesting covers, so no complaints there. So check it out. That's Darkthrone with Holy Darkthrone. Well, bands covering them. Okay, so now getting into the post-2000 albums. Believe it or not, I only own 3. So like I said, I have gaps in the collection, but I'll just talk about the ones I have. So coming up first, we have Plaguewielder, which came out in 2001. Oh, and the disc is missing. I did have it because I was listening to it recently, but there's the booklet. And it comes on this really nice rough paper and cool design, lyrics and photos of the band and everything. Okay, yeah, so this one came out in 2001, the follow-up from Ravishing Grimness. Just right off the bat, I'll say that I prefer this one to Ravishing Grimness, which was, as you know, my least favorite of the 90s albums. I think this one's going in a much better direction. I heard a lot of people say that they were disappointed with this one and they thought it wasn't very good. I actually think it's one of those sort of underrated gems. It's got some really good riffs on it, some very memorable lyrics and things like that. So yeah, something different. Like it's not that classic Darkthrone exactly, but in certain aspects, yes. So we've got 6 tracks here. I really like 4 of them. With the other 2, I still do like them, but my favorites on this are Weakling Avenger. That's the opening track, like very classic, memorable melodic riff in that, and the breakdown section in the middle is really good as well, like just heavy and sinister. Then track 2, Raining Murder, the same thing, like just some very haunting, sinister riffs in that, and then the part in the middle, you know, where they have the thunder and lightning striking and everything and the rain pouring down. It just creates a good atmosphere. Sin Origin track 3, that's one, it's not a standout one for me, but there are certain parts which are really memorable in that song, like some of the lyrics like that. They've got some weird lyrics in this album, like in that song Sin Origin, the line, entertaining Satan on a wet electric stage. I don't know, it's always stood out to me, but that's what I find interesting about it. Track 4, Command, is a really good song. That features, what's his name? Apollyon from Aura Noir doing some guest vocals, and I really like Aura Noir. But yeah, that song Command, just that middle part where they do the chants like Command in the middle, it's got like just a really good groove, and great riffs in that song once again. Track 5, I Void Hanger, is not one of my favorites, like that. So it's that one and Sin Origin which don't grab me as much, but then my absolute favorite track on the album is the last one. That's called Wreak, as in W-R-E-A-K. So yeah, just got some mid-pace, heavy, sinister riffs in that, and then they actually harken back to their sort of glory days from Transylvanian Hunger with those tremolo, bleak, melodic riffs. You know, so it's sort of like a blast from the past, that song. And they have some memorable lyrics in that song, like Immer, always blasphemous, like that always stands out. And of course the chorus, Lacerate, Damage, Wreak. Great. You know, but yeah, it's a really bouncy rhythm and sinister, like grim vocals as well, like Nocturno Culto's vocals are in top form. And it's reminiscent of the early days. So the other thing about this album, apart from the vocals, The production is quite good, you can hear everything clearly, and it doesn't sound as sleepy and languid as Ravishing Grimness, so some more energy. Still, it's a pretty moderate album, but there are some fast parts in it too, so I think, yeah, if you're a big fan of Darkthrone, like, maybe some people might say it's only for die-hard fans, but it is quite accessible and there's some good catchy riffs in it, and yeah, I think it's worth checking out. So that's Darkthrone with Plaguewielder. Okay, coming up next, The Cult is Alive from 2006. This is an interesting one for me to talk about. Okay, so first of all, when I've seen YouTube reviews and various other reviews about this, a lot of people slam this album and say they don't like it, or they found it really disappointing, or they can't get into it. For me, I just think, really? Like, this is honestly one of my favorite Darkthrone albums of all time. Shock horror, yes, it is really good. Like, on this album, they started to incorporate other elements of music, like most notably punk music. But then if you think about it, that's not such a wild leap, is it? Because a lot of black metal is very punky anyway and inspired by that kind of music, but they just take it a bit further in this. You can also hear elements of like bands like Motorhead, especially in the song like Too Old, Too Cold. Like it's a bit rocking, like some of the tracks they incorporate rock elements as well. So yeah, what I'll say about this album is, first of all, the production is really good for Darkthrone, as in everything should be clear. And I don't understand when people say, oh, it should sound horrible and unclear. Bullshit. As long as you can hear the sound clearly, that brings out the songs in their best form, in my opinion. The guitar tone is great, the vocals are very grim, the drumming is very clear, like everything is just fantastic and very, very catchy. Like, is that every song is pretty much memorable, or the majority of them anyway. Like, I like this album is 10 tracks. I don't dislike any, but it's like my favorite tracks are about 6 of them. And like memorable choruses, they have a lot of great guitar solos. This was the album where they reintroduced guitar solos, and Nocturno Culto took over Zephyrus from that, because Zephyrus is no longer in the band, but does a great job. It's sort of like, imagine like a mix of black metal, punk, and hard rock, that kind of thing, but they all mesh together to form this like really catchy and memorable album, which I really like. So this one I do actually have the disc, which is plain, and yeah, interesting cover art. I'm not the biggest fan of this cover art, but it is kind of iconic for the album that it's presenting. Nice readable lyrics, portraits of the band. Yeah, so a very fun, enjoyable album by Darkthrone, like quite catchy, but that's not a bad thing, it just makes it more memorable. So some of my favorite songs on this are the opening track, The Cult of Goliath. It's just brilliant, especially with the guitar solo and the pre-part where he says, "Come on, fuckers." It's great. Also track 2, Too Old, Too Cold. That's the one where it has a bit of a like Motorhead vibe. It's like rocking and a very catchy song. Really like it. Also Atomic Coming, very memorable chorus. That's the thing, each of these songs really stands out. Track 4 is Graveyard Slut. That one is interesting because it's sung by Fenriz. So Fenriz normally doesn't sing for Darkthrone, it's Nocturno Culto. Of course, Fenriz has sung in other projects like Isengard and everything, but he does the lead vocals on that song, and it's a little bit different to Nocturno Culto, so that's interesting. And I'm just very catchy riffs in that song, and melody and the chorus and everything, and he does these vocal outbursts which are funny, like ooh and wow. So it like makes it a really fun track. Another favorite track of mine is Whiskey Funeral, like very memorable chorus and riffs again, fantastic. What else? Probably one of my favorites, if not the favorite, is Shut Up, which is like a catchy sort of like song. It's very punky in attitude, and it's yeah, interesting, funny lyrics in that song. You know, like begging for this and asking for that. Shut up, fucking twat. And the part in the middle where like when they do this like groovy plodding riff, which is just so catchy in that typical Darkthrone manner, like then he reiterates it like the shut up fucking twat, and when the drums kick in, it's just awesome. Like really love that song. And also the final track, Forbigende Krig, so Norwegian title, just very heavy, sinister, awesome riffs in that song, and that lyric which stands out is like the way he screams the black weapon. Fantastic stuff. So yes, very underrated gem from Darkthrone, and I don't understand why a lot of people say they dislike this, but for me, I know I'm not ranking these ones today, except imagine if I were to include these ones, like rank everything in my collection, I think this could be my 5th overall favorite album by the band. So obviously after Under a Funeral Moon, A Blaze in the Northern Sky, Transylvanian Hunger, and Panzerfaust, I think this one would come in at number 5. So criminally underrated, very catchy. And I think that if someone is not familiar with Darkthrone or this kind of music in general, and they wanted to sort of ease in, this would be a good album because the production's pretty good and it's very catchy, but by no means is it selling out. It's just a brilliant album, so check it out. That's Darkthrone with The Cult Is Alive. All right. So, coming up to the last one in the collection, for me, and I'm getting through this pretty fast actually, unusual, right? So, yeah, this is Arctic Thunder from, I think, 2015, something like that. I'll leave the details in the caption below. Yep. So, talking about this album, they leave some liner notes which are interesting. It says, Arctic Thunder was recorded at our old rehearsal place from 1988 to 1990, 400 meters away from Creative Studios where A Blaze in the Northern Sky and Under a Funeral Moon were recorded. So I think this was the album. They had done a few albums after The Cult Is Alive where they were sort of experimenting with more punk and even traditional heavy metal. And I haven't really heard those albums, so I can't comment. But this was the album which was sort of like heralded as their return to the black metal sound, in a way. Really nice booklet, first of all, and readable lyrics. Suitable pictures. I love this kind of artwork and photography, by the way. Like that imagery to me is just brilliant. Okay, and you see the cover. The only weird thing about this cover is it's not very clear. It's like some campfire in a Nordic landscape. You can see that? Like, it's a cool concept. The only thing is you can't see it all that clearly. So I think if they just enhance that slightly, it would be better. But maybe that's just me being a picky bitch. But here you have the portraits of the band. You've got 8 tracks on here. So what I'll say about this album is when I first heard it, I really liked it. These days, it's not one I listen to all that often, to be honest. And is it a bad album? Not at all. Like there are some good tracks on it, but I always find myself when I listen to this album, I feel like I'm saying, yeah, it's pretty good. It's good, but you know, I don't go beyond that. Like it's got all those classic Darkthrone elements there. You know, the plodding, groovy style of the riffs, because this is again like a moderate and slower album. It's not like super fast. Also like Nocturno Culto's traditional vocals and everything. So yeah, it's Darkthrone for sure, but it just doesn't excite me all that much. So a few good tracks on this. So Tundra Leech, the opening one, just that hypnotic sort of plodding kind of riff with an interesting hook. That's great. And my other two favorite tracks on the album would be tracks 2 and 3. So Burial Bliss and Boreal Fields. Sorry, Boreal Fiends, I think. Yeah. Yeah, just great. Like they've got those sort of like old traditional melancholic Darkthrone riffs, you know, reminiscent again of Transylvanian Hunger. Also in Boreal Fields, they've got this clean vocal part where I think it's sung by Fenriz, you know, where like sung out Boreal Fields, but it like really just stands out amazingly. Probably the best track on the album is the title track, Arctic Thunder, like just such a melodic, catchy, memorable riff which really sticks in your head. So title track is the best one on the album for me. Now, the last 3 tracks don't really do much for me. Like Throw Me Through the Marshes, that is okay, except I just find that it's a bit repetitive and it goes on and on and on, and the riff isn't that exciting for it to be repeated that much. And then the final 2 tracks, Deep Lake Trespass and The Wyoming Distance, those 2 tracks are okay as well. But yeah, again, just okay. So it's that kind, I think this is that kind of album where it's more sort of background music to me. Like I don't put it on to get a lot of excitement out of it, but it is still a decent album. Yeah, the only really boring track for me is Throw Me Through the Marshes, just due to the repetition. But yes, it's Darkthrone, but I would say if you've never heard this band, this wouldn't be the album to start with because it might leave the wrong impression. There are better albums to start with than this one, but still it's decent. It's got all those classic Darkthrone elements there, and yeah, worthwhile for those tracks that I mentioned. So decent, but I don't normally give ratings for albums, but I would say with this one it would probably be 6.5 out of 10. And that's no criticism, it's just like how I honestly feel in my reaction to the music. But still, classic Darkthrone and worth checking out. So that's Arctic Thunder. Alright, so believe it or not, that's the end of the video. They are the only post-2000 Darkthrone albums I own. So, you know, you've got all these other ones like Circle the Wagons, FOAD, maybe some others. I haven't heard those. Oh, also, I do have a copy of Hate Them, which is, again, it's a, you know, a decent album, but I don't own all of them, so that's why I haven't included these in the ranking. I only ranked the 90s albums, but you tell me, what do you think of these albums? Of the ones that I haven't shown, which ones do you recommend? Which ones do you like and dislike? All right, and that's it. So for the next video, I'm going to go back to my vinyl collection, just start showing some, I think I'll return to traditional heavy metal first, so I'm going to show 3 albums by one particular band. With the vinyls, I'm not going to do 6 at a time anymore because I feel it takes up too much time and people don't want to stay here for too long. So yeah, I'll do 3 albums by that band, which is a surprise coming up, and that'll be quite soon. So in the meantime, take care of yourselves. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you like the video to show me some support. It would be great. If you're not subscribed and you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. That'd be cool. And take care. I'll see you in the near future, I think. So yeah, that's all I have to say. See you guys.